up, everyone? It is your girl GELBEAUTY 87 here, aka Grace, and it's the last episode of my most used palettes. Most used eyeshadow palettes in my collection. So I thought I had filmed the third part of this, and then I had not. So I was like, let's go ahead and film it tonight. If you're curious for some of my eyes, this is the Holidays palette from the Muppets and ColourPop from 2023. So, and then I revamped and added some shades to it, because y'all know I don't like the pressed glitterish type hybrid shades that they put in the palettes now. So I just smoothed some stuff around and made it work for me. So that's what's going on with my eyes, just in case anyone cared, because when I filmed the last video I forgot to say that. So yeah, my bad. Anyway, let's get into it. So I got like 2 or 3 brands of palettes that I want. Sorry, I got 5 brands of palettes I want to talk about, because I remember in the other video I said I was supposed to add, I think, 2 or 3 of these, and then I forgot to. So I was like, we're just gonna put it in this video now. So we're gonna start off with, of course, Blend Buddy. So the All Done Up palette, since it was the smallest one, I just set it on the top. What she looks like, I love how this gives a unique and fun version of smoky vibes to my collection. To me, this is a muted version of the, what is that palette? The Cosmic Brushes Muse palette. That definitely gives me a muted version of the Cosmic Brushes Muse palette. But I like the tones in here, which is why I reach for it a lot, because I like the fact that it has a lot of these deep tones, but then you get these mid-tone shades, and then you get a cute little pastel ash shade. So if you're like Angie or Angelica Neesmith here on YouTube, and you like to put like matte inner corner shade, I feel like you have that. Or you just really light and you have these shades of dust over the top, and then if you use this as your outer V shade. Whereas people in my skin tone are deeper or lighter or like more tan, but not necessarily like fair to medium, they can use these as outer V shades. Or if you just like having a deeper outer V shade. And then these gorgeous shimmers over here, these are the ones that you put on top of shades to make them look better. But I love putting the shade Shine on top of like this green matte right here, and it just does something spectacular. And I'm not a person who really likes to do stuff like that, but with this I make that exception, because this palette is just so stunning. So that's why I reach for it quite a bit when the fall comes, just because I feel like she's so stunning and I can't not use it. Now next I have the Blends palette. So this is the first palette she came out with, and I remember my girl, of course, Karen Harris and Mariah Gold. I don't know if she still makes videos anymore. I think she just does shorts now, but I remember both of them talking about this palette, and Mariah made a gorgeous look and Karen made a gorgeous look, and they kept talking about how the formula was really nice, and I was like, but it's just a rainbow palette. And I'm like, you know, I already have so many rainbow palettes, because if you're a person who loves color, obviously you're gonna keep rainbow palettes in your collection. But the formula on this was definitely worth it for me, and that's when I started buying all their palettes. So I think this came out, and then the one I'm gonna talk about next came out. But I love to use this with like my shimmer palettes. So like when I have a all shimmer palette, I'll definitely go ahead and reach for this one easily, because I think it's just a stunning color story, and they did a great job with the formula on this, and like the coloring as a whole on this palette is stunning. So I reach for it a lot when I use my shimmer palettes. Like if I was going to use like All I Ever Wanted or a lot of my Unearthly Cosmetics shimmer palettes, I usually just reach for this matte palette, because I know it's going to give me the colorful things that I need out of it. So I love it so much. Next I have the Surge palette. This is the second palette she came out with, if I remember correctly, and I think Primal was third. Now this one is being discontinued, unfortunately, so I think it was the neon pigments down here that they couldn't find again or do again, so they had discontinued the palette. But this palette is absolutely stunning. I love to reach for a lot just for those shades, because these shades actually show up pretty nicely on someone my skin tone, and it's hard to get shades like this to show up on me, especially if you're not a professional makeup artist like I'm not. It's harder to get them to work, but the fact that they work for me and I'm not, I remember I was wearing it and this girl was like, what palette is that? Because if it'll show up on you that bright, imagine how bright it'll show up on me. I'm like, I know, right? So I told her about it. Hopefully she grabbed it when she wanted it, because they're not making it anymore. But this is definitely one I reach for a lot, and I'll continue to reach for. This one, y'all just gonna have to be mad at me for reaching for it, because I'm like, it does wonders for me, and it's hard to find colors like this that work on people my skin tone. So I'm gonna still be using it. So I'm sorry. I'm just telling you now, I'm sorry. I'm gonna be using it anyway. So I got one more Blend Buddy palette. I feel like there's no surprise, it's the Lure. This is like all my all-time Blend Buddy palette. If you asked, if I had to rescue one Blend Buddy palette, it would be this, and I have the Troll Quad sitting with it, so I would just grab both of them and run. Like, if I had to rescue one, this is the Blend Buddy palette I would rescue. I mean, it's no surprise with the color stories that I always talk about. I love blue, greens, and purples, and you got a cute little pink moment and a little smoky moment for if I need to do a quick neutral look and I can still get use out of this palette. So, yeah, I love this palette. I'm so glad to have it in my collection, and needless to say, it is one of my most used, because it is my favorite color story. I need to go get a battery, because I talked a lot during the other video, I guess, and my battery was like, it's tired of me. So when I come back, we're going to talk about these cute Ensley Reign palettes in my collection. I'll be right back. Okay, girl? Okay. Okay, anyway, y'all. So this is the first palette I tried from Ensley Reign. I was absolutely obsessed with, in love with, enraptured with. This is the Strawberry Moon palette. When I saw the color story on this, I just knew I needed to try it because I was like, it's just so stunning. I can't not try this palette. So I was like, I have to own it. I have to try it. It has to be in my possession. So I actually caught this one on launch. I didn't have to do, wait, no, I caught this when they had restocked and I didn't have to do a pre-order on this. But I think every other palette I have bought from this brand besides the Lands of Enchantment, I have had to buy and pre-order, including the, what is it, the Cold Moon. I'm still waiting on the Cold Moon to show up because, again, like, I slept through the launch and they said, hopefully the footage doesn't change too much. My camera started to decide to act up while I was talking, but I'm like, yeah, this palette was giving, I was living, I had to have it in my collection. And no, I was talking about how Cold Moon sold out. So I'm waiting on Cold Moon to come back in stock because it just sold out with the quickness, and I was asleep because I work in the daytime and they always launch at like 12:30 or something like that. So if I don't have to pick Adrian up early, I'm just gonna miss it. So y'all just gonna have to wait for my Cold Moon. I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. But back to this palette, I love the color story of this. Like, the color story just spoke to me as soon as I saw it. I was like, yes, 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 give it to me, yes, yes, yes. So I'm so excited to have this one, and I have used it quite a bit considering I've just tried this brand recently. I think I've used it like 3 or 4 times. So that tells you my love of it right there. Next, I have the Twisted Tea Party. When I saw this, I knew I was going to have it. Like, I mean, look at this color story. Look at it. Look at it. Like, so y'all, the camera keeps popping on and off with the lens while I'm trying to talk. So I took it off and put it back on. Hopefully, we'll be okay to get through this. So, anyway, like I was saying about this Twisted Tea Party palette. I love the shimmers and just the color story of this palette as a whole. I felt like they did a great job of giving you like a little rolls of each different color story that you could put together that you'd be okay with understanding the color story for. Like, you have this like blue and pink one right here, or you can just look at it as quads. Like, this can be a cute little blue and purple quad, or you can look at this as nice little green row right here. So I feel like they did a good job of like making the palette where it's understandable for you to like come up with color stories and looks. And the good thing is you can pop it out, so if you need to come up with a better color story that works better visually for you to understand how to make a eye look with, they did a good job of doing that too. So I like that. They gave a cute little package. I'll try to remember to link the video up above where like I got the package in the mail. They had a cute little key in there, and they had some stickers that said drink me and eat me, and it was really adorable based upon, you know, like the true idea of this show, and then I mean this movie. And then they had like the cute little Cheshire cat that says we're all mad here. I'm like, I just love Alice in Wonderland, if you all were not aware. So like, that's another reason this palette was given to me. But I think I've used that one like 2 or 3 times as well. So, you know, she got a decent amount of use out of me considering I do test out a lot of palettes. Lastly, we have the Lands of Enchantment. Now I compared this one to my Cosmic Brushes palette because they both have very similar color stories to them, but this is what it looks like on the inside. I love the color story of this. I love the pastels in here. I love especially this shimmer light language and divine light. They have this gorgeous iridescent look on the lid that I feel like is just so stunning and makes it so unique to this palette. There is one that is somewhat similar in the Cosmic Brushes one, and the Cosmic Brushes we all know is more affordable, so that's why I wanted to compare them side by side so you all can see how they looked on the eyes and make a, you know, educated determination based upon that, and not necessarily spend the money that comes with this, because I believe this one is $88 and like 88 cents or something like that, and y'all know that's not the easiest price point to swallow, especially when there's, you know, a brand selling a similar color story to $20-something. But I still really like this palette, and I still recommend it if you're interested in trying it. However, I just want you to know there are other options out there, so I'm not trying to force you to buy this like super expensive palette. But I did like it, and I have used it like 2 or 3 times at least, which again is a big deal considering I always have to switch out palettes and whatnot. So next into the next brand, this is Glamlight. I was supposed to put Glamlight in that last video that I spoke with you all about, and again I didn't, so that's why it's here now. At least I feel like I was supposed to put it in there. I'm not 100%, but I swore I said in there that Glamlight would do in the next part, and I just didn't. So sorry about that. We have the Barbie palette in Glamlight. Every time I talk about this palette, I was talking about the presentation and how they made everybody a Barbie. So shout out to Giselle for making everybody a Barbie, not just the traditional Barbie. Everybody gets to be Barbie. There's a medium tone Barbie, there's a deep Barbie, and there's a light Barbie. So shout out to representation, as everyone can be a Barbie. Now onto the inside of this palette. Y'all know this is definitely my type of color story and vibe. I got some purples, I got some blues, there's a cute little pink section, there's even this little sunset eye moment here. So you have a little bit of neutral going on if you need to add neutral with these colors to tone it down a bit, because you're not that colorful of a person like I am. So I definitely think this palette was pretty nicely curated. I feel like it's still more for a color lover, but it still gives a little bit of neutral, for that way if you did need to do a neutral and this was the only palette that was conveniently available for you, you could still make somewhat of a neutral eye look and it'd be somewhat acceptable. It'd be a little bit more on the smoky side in my personal opinion because of how deep the shade is, but if you lose light hand and you're on the lighter side, you might be able to like pull it off and wing it. But you know, I really like this one. I've used it a lot throughout the years. I think it's been out for like 2 years now. I feel like it came out about 2 years ago, and I've used mine quite a bit. So next we have the Scooby-Doo and Glam Light palette. The thing is, when I first tried this, I was like, I don't know how I feel about it. And I do agree with everybody else about the wide spaces in it. I feel like maybe they should have just put the characters differently, so that way they could have made it a smaller palette. But I understand them making a character for each row. So like this row is supposed to be Scooby-Doo at the top, and then that one's supposed to be Shaggy, Daphne, Velma, and like Fred is at the bottom with all the blue. So it's like, I get the thought process of it. It's just more of like, you know, I'd rather it had been curated a little bit better as far as where they were going to put the characters, so that way it wouldn't have to be such a wide palette. Because I love the quality of it, I love the color story, and I like using the palette. It's just more of, because it's so wide and big, it makes it hard to store and it makes it kind of annoying. But it's worth it to me, and I do use it quite a bit, so I, you know, we just had to take it as it comes. I'd prefer it to be more like the last one we're going to talk about, which is the Rick and Morty palette. Now again, I don't agree with the allegations against the I don't agree or watch this show or know anything about it, but I do know there were allegations of DV and SA against one of the people that voices one of the characters. I think it's the one who voices Rick, whoever the man is in the lab coat who voices him. I believe that's who they said the allegations were against, but I cannot deny the gorgeousness of the color story of this palette. They killed it. They knocked it out the park with this palette, and that's why I was upset when I found out, because I'm like, this color story is too amazing. And I'm so sad that, you know, like, they had to collaborate on such a gorgeous color story with such a, you know, negative person, because I'm like, this is truly amazing. Hopefully in the future they would just come out with this color story on its own and not necessarily have the brand of Rick and Morty attached to it, because I feel like this color story would do well with them. It could be like a 2.0 version of the ice cream palette, or maybe they could make like a candy, a Skittle-ish type vibe palette and just make this a color story, like Dark Side Skittles mixed with original Skittles, and make like a palette based upon that or something to bring this color story back out, because it's absolutely stunning. I hear you can find this at TJ Maxx, so if you all can find it, hopefully you can, and grab your hands on it, because I was so sad that they got rid of it so quick, because I wanted to buy it to put in the giveaway for you all that I did during Christmas time, because I just thought it was such a stunning palette. I'm like, you all need to own it. And if you don't want to buy it, I'm putting this giveaway because you need to own it that much. It's that much of a wonderful color story to me, and I feel like you just had to have it. So, on to the next set. Now, a couple of these palettes I did redo myself, so I hope you don't think it's unfair, but it's like, I had to do what I had to do, girl, and it was not necessarily working as well as I was hoping they would work. So, you know, I had to do what I had to do. So, I'm going to get those two out the way, and then I'll show you the ones that, you know, like, are just original color stories from the brand. Now, we all know that I was super excited when Circle Local came out, because I'm a person who loves colorful eyeshadows, and the fact that Natasha was giving us colorful eyeshadows, I was like, yes, I need it, I'm here for it, it's a vibe, I will take them all. So I did end up redoing mine though, because I wanted a more candy coated color story. I don't like oranges, if you weren't aware. I'm not really a fan of the color orange, and the good majority of this palette had like 3 or possibly 4 oranges. I don't remember. I know it was a good amount of orange considering how colorful it was supposed to be, and I don't like orange, so I cherry picked mine out with shades from the Tropic palette, the original Tropic palette, not the mini one, the original one. So I took all the fun shades out of the Tropic palette basically and put them in this palette to make mine look like this. So it gives you more candy coated fun vibes to the palette. So where is it? This shade, if I remember correctly, is from the Tropic palette. I know this blue is from the Tropic palette. This purple, I'm pretty sure, is from the Tropic palette. And I think it was this shade. And I think this shade that came from Tropic palette. So I pulled like 3 or 4 shades out of it, because like I told you, there was like 3 or 4 oranges in here. And then there was another shade in here that I just wasn't crazy about. So this is what my Circle Local palette looks like. And I actually like to use this quite a bit with some of my other palettes just to give it extra oomph or extra fun to them. Or sometimes I just like to use it alone. But this is easily my favorite palette. One of my favorite palettes I've recreated in my entire collection. And my favorite Natasha Denona palette. So I'm going to get into the next one that I recreated. And then I'll just go through the wet. Well, technically, I guess I got two. And the weird thing is, I just said I don't like oranges, but I went out of my way to put an orange in this particular palette. So let me show that one and then get the rest of them out the way. So if y'all remember, in the Yucca palette, I talked about how I felt like there should have been a brighter orange for us to use. So I just went ahead and put one in mine, if you all remember, because there's like this deepish type orange, and then there's this pumpkin-ish type orange. But I was like, I felt like a bright orange like this was just needed to complete the look of the palette. So I went ahead and pressed one out of one of my old palettes and put it in here for myself to use. But as a general, I don't like orange. I don't know, but I felt like with the color aesthetic of this, like this was just needed, so I put it in here. So that's the only shade I changed out of here though, and this is one of the new palettes that she came out with in 2023. I'm very impressed with it. I really like the color story of it. I'm glad to have it in my collection, and this is the standard midi quality that she puts in these palettes, because y'all know sometimes they be hit or miss, like with the, what's that palette called, the with the Zendo palette everybody wasn't a huge fan of. I think there's one other one, like the Love Face palette. It wasn't really eyeshadows in there though, it was the face palette. But the next one I have to talk about that I redid over some, which I feel like just didn't work that well for people my skin tone. It was made more for like the at best medium and then like light and fair category, is the Natasha Denona Retro Glam palette. So I redid mine with a few fun colors to try to make it more me and more wearable for what I personally like. So this is what mine looks like. So I just added this blue, I added this shade, and of course I added this hot pink, because I just thought it would be fun to have a hot pink in here with all these like grungy deeper shades, since it's supposed to be more of that romantic greenish pink vibe. So I added those. This one shifts I think to a purple, pink, and green, which is how I got in here. And the blue is like blue and green. So I tried to make sure all of them had green in it, since like the deepest shade in here is a dark green. So I really like the way this turned out. I like the eye look I came up with. You all like the eye look I came up with when I showed you last year in 2023, I believe, when I redid this. So I reached for it more now than I originally would have, just because I added those tones to it. So I plan on doing that with the I Need a Nude palette. Just put some more fun pops of color in that'll work better for some of my skin tone, and see if I can find a deeper matte that I can press into one of those pants and make it work for me. And then I'm gonna do that with the Zendo too, because not Zendo, right? Is it Zendo? No, with the Xenon, because I want that to have the true navy shades in it, a few more grays that work better for someone my skin tone, with some fun like dual chrome and multi-chrome shades. So I'm gonna redo both of those. You can comment down below and tell me if you want me to do it on video, on camera, which you all like I did in a video prior that people had asked me about, or not. Doesn't make a difference. I'm gonna do it. It's just a question, do you want to see me do it or not? Anyway, the next one I have to talk about I love so much is the Natasha Denona Love palette. The funny thing is, when I first got this palette, I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I just love the uniqueness of this romantic color story that she came out with, because I feel like it's not traditional to her at all, especially like these purplish, ashy, deep tones down here. I feel like they're definitely not a traditional vibe of Natasha. Unfortunately, you can't get this anymore. I did put it in my backup and a giveaway I did maybe like a year or two ago, when they still had this palette available, because I love this palette and I love the colors of it. I think it was such a unique take on a Valentine's Day-esque type palette, and I was happy to have it in my collection. It is definitely better than the ones that Pat McGrath came out with. And I love Mother, but Mother, what was that? Hers was such a snooze fest, it made me upset. The last Natasha Denona palette I have to talk about is actually the very first big $129 palette I bought from Natasha Denona. So I feel like no one should be surprised. I'm talking about the gold palette. Now, one of my gold shades actually does fall out of this, because mine is that old. So this shade right here completely fell out of the pan when I was showing it to you all one time. So I always hold my finger right here toward the end to make sure it doesn't like fall out, and try to have my hand like ready to receive it if it does fall out. But this is what it looks like. I don't think they sell this one anymore, but you know, she's cute. I like her. I haven't used Metropolis that often though, so that's why I'm not putting it in this video. It's not because I don't like the quality of it. We're trying to talk about ones I use a lot, and this is one of the neutral palettes in my collection I actually use a lot, because if you really cover this up, it's really quite boring. But I still usually reach for these shades and use a darker brown, or maybe one of like the gold shades in here to make it work. And the formula on this is really nice. This is when I found out that her palettes might actually be worth the price she charges, because at first I was like, 100 what? For some, like Angie says, for some colorful powder? Excuse me, what? I'm sorry, it does not compute. What are we talking about? Why am I paying this woman this type of money for some colorful powder? Then I found out it was one of the best qualities of colorful powders, and that's why I was paying that. So there you go. Last we have to talk about Pat McGrath, and y'all know I got a huge Pat McGrath collection. So we're gonna start off with like the small palettes and the quads. So I have, what is this, Interstellar Icon? Yeah, this is Interstellar Icon. Is the first quad we're gonna talk about. I usually compare this with the other one. I just forgot to bring it with me. There's another one that looks really similar to this. I forgot the name of it, but like I usually pair this one with that one because this one is all like, you know, shimmers for the most part. This is a satin, and the rest of these are the true metallic shimmers that she uses. And then that one has like one deeper red matte to go with it. So I usually pair with that one, but I love both of these. This is the ones that came out during 2020 during the pandemic. There was one in there, I think it's Flora Fantasia or something, that nobody seemed to be a huge fan of it. I like it okay. Sometimes just as like accents on top of shimmers that I already have, but like on its own, it's definitely not worth the price that she charged for it. But you know, it's mother, we gonna pay it regardless. Next I have, what is this one called? Risque Rose. I love this quad. I love to pair this one with Ritualistic Rose, just because it gives you these nice two gorgeous colorful mattes. So I get this colorful pink matte right here, and then you get this deep brown matte, and I love the shifting shade right here. It's gorgeous. This inner corner shade I'm not that crazy about, but I usually use a shade from Ritualistic Rose on top of it and in the inner corner to give it a nice pop. So I'll let you see them side by side and why they're so amazing. I think my girl Karen Harris actually decluttered this in her eyeshadow palette collection, which I was shocked about, because like this is one of those Astral Blitz quads, and I'm like, I'm never getting rid of my Astral Blitz quads. I don't care what you're talking about. But yeah, this is what they look like side by side. So as you can see, it's giving off like different shifts and whatnot. So like that boring pink right here that I feel like doesn't do that much, I would put this on top of it to give it some extra oomph and sparkle and whatnot. And I think both of them together just gives just the and a je ne sais quoi that I just love so much and have to have in my collection. So it's another one where I'm just like, yeah, no, I can't get rid of it. I can't ever get rid of it. Thank you so much, I cannot. So they are ones I do reach for frequently. When I do reach for my Pat McGrath quad, those are just some of the quads I automatically think of that I just have to have in my collection. So I will never be getting rid of those. And I don't care who knows about it, because I reach for them quite a bit, or else they wouldn't be in this video. Sorry, y'all. Like, some of the inserts in here, when you try to push the palette down, like you have to take the whole thing out because the insert doesn't want to just properly cooperate, and it's just a whole thing, girl. It's so annoying. Like why can't you just go back in the box like you're supposed to instead of like making a whole scene? I don't. Yeah. It's so annoying. I just can't. It's just so annoying. I can't. Anyway. Last one I have to talk about, and again, I feel like nobody would be surprised about this quad and me never letting it go out of my possession, and it being one of my most used Pat McGrath quads. This is Nocturnal Nirvana. So y'all know I had to hold on to my Nocturnal Nirvana. I have to hold on to it forever. It's absolutely stunning. It's blue, green, and purples from Pat McGrath when she used to do fun things. When's the last time Mother did anything fun? So you really think I'm gonna let this go? Absolutely not. I will not. I feel like this actually pairs really nicely with her holiday palette from 2022. You know, the colorful matte she finally gave us, which you'll see shortly. I'm trying to get through the smaller ones first, and then we'll get into the bigger ones, and then we'll get into the motherships that I use the most last. But yeah, that's just one of my all-time favorite quads. Like, I will never let go of the Bliss Astral quads until she makes some more. And then if she doesn't make the right colors with, I'm still hoarding them. So there you go. They are just some I love to use in my collection when it comes to Pat McGrath. And the crazy thing is, I usually use my indie shadows a lot, so I don't really use that much Pat McGrath. But these are Pat McGrath ones that I do actually reach for frequently. This is La Vie en Rose. So this is supposed to be a smaller version of Mothership 3. I would have put Mothership 3 in here, but I reached for my Into the Night palette from Glaminatrix more, as I have showed you, so I felt there was no point of showing it. But I figured I could show the small version of this because it's absolutely stunning and gorgeous. I mean, look at it. Like, I think these were part of a vote that she brought back for a limited time or whatever, because people loved these so much. And yes, this is the one I love. I know some people said this purple got hard pan on them. Like, I'm looking at mine and I can see that mine is hard pan, but it's really similar to the one in Nocturnal Nirvana, if you have not noticed. So it's like, that's why I'm not tripping over it, because the one in Nocturnal Nirvana I can still use, but this one I can definitely see, like, oh wait, no, it's still working. Okay, I guess it's just the oil, but yeah, she's still holding on, and I'm excited about it. But yeah, I love this palette. And when I want a quick purple look And to use my luxury shadows, this is definitely one of the ones I go to. It gives a great pink and purple moment. And it's one of those limited edition things that I just would never let go. Because y'all know, when mother says she not bringing stuff back, she most likely doesn't. The only thing I feel like she brought back consistently that she said she wasn't was like with the Mothership 4. What was the name of that one? Divinity? Was that the name of it? I don't remember. But next I have my Celestial Divinity palette. This was the one that had the Star Wars shades in it after the Star Wars palette sold out. So these are the 6 Star Wars shades from the gold palette, and these are the 6 from the Darth Vader palette, and then the 6 in the middle are the new. But to me, they're not really that new now, because don't they look really similar to the ones from the face palette that she came out with, that's on sale right now on Sephora for like 45 bucks. Like these shades right here give me some of the vibes of that. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but this is definitely one of my most used Pat McGrath palettes. I use it a lot when it comes to my using it with my Jackie Ida palette, because Jackie's mattes are really nice, and since that one's more sugar heavy and Jackie's is more matte heavy, it's, you know, it's good to put them together. So I really like using those together a lot, and I have done it a lot throughout the years. So next I have the Celestial Nirvana. Now this is what I was talking about with the colorful mattes in it. I like to use the Nocturnal Nirvana palette with, because look at all these, like look at all these colorful mattes she gave. She doesn't really do stuff like that, but again, this is one that you have to look at in quads in order for it to make sense. So it's like you got this sunsetty type quad, you got this blue purple pinkish type quad, and you got the more neutrally brown green quad. This palette actually reminds me of another palette. I think I've done an overrated versus underrated where I show you the palette that it reminds me of in similarity to, but this is another one I reached for quite a bit, just because I'm like, I was happy like everybody else. She finally gave us some colorful mattes to choose from. So now we're gonna end it off with my Mothership palettes, and that will conclude my most used Pat McGrath palettes, or most used most used eyeshadow palettes. Oh honey, I know it was a mouthful for me, but we're gonna start off with, of course, Mothership 5. Everybody loves Mothership 5. What is this, Bronze Seduction or Bronze Temptation? I always forget the name of this one and the other one. This is Bronze Seduction. Okay, so the baby one is Bronze Temptation. I always get confused, I'm so sorry. But yeah, this is what it looks like. Y'all know I'm not really into warm tones, but honey, this warm tone was giving I Was Living. Mother gave it to us, and I was grateful, because this one, when warm tones were still really quite popular, but you know, I really liked this palette, and it is actually one of my warm tone palettes I reached for the most, so I had to make sure I put it in this video, honey, because yes, it was definitely giving all of what I needed for a warm tone moment, and I was grateful. And I'm still grateful to have in my collection, because it's still one of the most talked about Pat McGrath palettes, in my personal opinion. When you think of Pat McGrath, I feel like you think of Mothership 5 for sure. Next, we have my Utopian Dream. This is one of my all-time favorite ones from her, just because I feel like the color story of this is pretty fun and unique and kind of summery, if you will, and what is colorful for her that isn't necessarily a pink that we're used to her doing. So that's what got me excited. She did some purples, and then she did some corally shades. She still did her little pink and mauve-ish thing, but there's more coral and purple in here than there normally would be. It would usually be like more pink and gold and, you know, that type of stuff. So I was just excited that it wasn't all that. Especially at those 2 Divine Roses before this came out, because I think 6 and 7 were Divine Rose and the Divine Rose 2 Artistry. So I was just happy to see something that was a little bit different, and this is definitely one of my favorites for sure. So I do reach for this one quite a bit when I think of my Pat McGrath palettes. I like to pair it with a couple of the other ones I'm going to show now, though, to, you know, make it more user friendly and get more use out of my Pat McGrath collection. So I like to pair it with Mothership, what is this, 10 Sunlit Seduction, sorry, Moonlit Seduction, and then number 11 is Sunlit Seduction. So I feel like Sunlit Seduction goes with a little bit better than Moonlit Seduction does, but I still like both of them. So this is what Moonlit Seduction looks like. I feel like Moonlit Seduction would go better with like Mothership 5 or what's the other one? It's another Mothership 1 perhaps. I don't own 2. That's the only Mothership I don't own is Mothership 2. So maybe one day during the sale I'll finally pick it up. It's just like I'm always like, this one pop of green doesn't mean anything to me. And since they all have like that standard black in it, I was like, do I really need it? And that's why I always like kind of don't get it. But I'll eventually add it to my collection just because I'm a Pat McGrath, you know, hoarder. So I need to have them all. But yes, I love the color story of this. And I feel like it goes great with those 2 palettes I spoke about. And I do use it quite a bit. If you can't see from the shade right here being, you know, well loved. She is well loved because I love this palette. But yeah, so that's another mothership that I used. I need to put that back in the box because I got a video coming up. I do have the Juvia's Place shadows on the way. They should be here, and the video should be up comparing them to the e.l.f. ones and some other stuff before you get here. But last we have Mothership 11 Sunlit Seduction. So I definitely feel like 11 is like a fun extension to Mothership 5, because she wanted to take it back to that whole situation and vibe. So I would like the color story of this. I think this goes nicely with 5. To me, this is more on the romantic Valentine's Day side that I would have preferred her to put in those smaller palettes. But I guess she already had that coming, so we didn't need the smaller ones. But I definitely think this pairs nicely with 5, and I can't wait to pair with 5 again. I think I've done it one time. I don't remember if I got to take a picture that day when I went to work or not. It might have been busy, but yeah, I have definitely used this at least 2 or 3 times. So that's how it ended up in this video, because when I use something 2 or 3 times with all the stuff I have, y'all know that means I really like it. So those are all of the palettes I had to talk about in today's video, honey. So those are the ones I am most impressed with and love from McGrath, along with some of these other brands I talked about. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. Remember, you all are diamonds. You can comment down below and tell me if any of these are some of your most used palettes in your collection. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Be blessed, girl. Bye.